Hello. It's Tanisha Souza, and I'm back to talk to you about some wealth building tips. And actually, I have a great book recommendation for you. It's called The Three Secret Pillars of Wealth, written by my friend James Burns. He's an attorney out of California. I wanted to share this with you because we have lived these three pillars for the past almost 20 years, my husband and I, and these are pillars that we teach our clients. So I'm going to be covering the three secret pillars of wealth of billionaires. These are secrets that billionaires use, millionaires use, and you should use and can use. And so we'll talk about what they are and how you can take advantage of them too. All right, so what are the three pillars of wealth? We're going to start with the first pillar. You've heard me talk about this a lot, but it's really important, and it is cash flow. Now you might think, well, what? That's not new. I know all about cash flow. I understand. But here's the thing. There are so many people out there that want to build wealth, but the biggest problem is they have no cash flow. And without cash flow, you're really not going to be able to build wealth. Now, you might think, well, what if I have savings? Well, I have my 401k. Well, I have this, I have that, I have my home. Again, it's not those things, even tangible assets. Cash flow is king, and it always needs to be king if you want to build wealth. That's whether you have a business or whether we're talking about your personal financial situation. You absolutely 100% need to have cash flow. This is what's really interesting. I find that there's a lot of people who do not have any cash flow. And what I mean by cash flow is money left over at the end of the month. So they may be W-2 employees, they may be business owners. They collect a certain amount of money through their paychecks after all the taxes are taken out, and then they pay their bills. They pay their mortgage or their rent and all of their utilities and everything. And by the time everything is said and done, they have nothing left or very, very little. And you have to think it's very difficult or really impossible to build wealth without cash flow. So cash flow has got to be the number one most important thing that you do to build wealth. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, well, I live in a very expensive area. I don't make enough money or whatnot. One thing to consider is to look at what you're really spending. So develop a spending plan. Really, once you figured that out, it doesn't mean that you can't spend money. It just means that you're going to decide where you want to spend your money. And if you have been a member of Awesome Financial Hacks, if you have zero cash flow, I highly recommend Awesome Financial Hacks. Go to awesomefinancialhacks.com, learn more about it so that you can build up your cash flow and get rid of some of those different issues before you can start building wealth, because you got to start there. Now, so again, it doesn't matter if you don't make a lot of money. It doesn't matter if you have a lot of debt. I was in all those situations when my husband and I got married. I had a huge amount of debt. My debt was almost double what I was earning in my job. And the cost of living where I was living was very high. So Hawaii has especially Honolulu, has one of the highest cost of livings in the country, and yet the professions here get paid less. So I had to take a 40% pay cut just to live here, and the cost of living is high. So it's very difficult. So you see a lot of people in Hawaii that live many different generations in one household. So you'll see parents, grandparents, and adult children living in the same house to try to save money so that they do have that extra cash flow. Well, guess what? If you can do that for a little bit, that works. There's lots of ways that you can actually dial down on your expenses a little bit so that you have enough to be able to do that. So cash flow is king. That's number one. All right. What's number two? It's a big fancy word. A lot of people have never heard of it. It sounds like it's, something strange. They call it arbitrage. And in the book, he explains arbitrage so well. We don't use that word, but we do use it in our investing and how we do things. So let me just try to explain arbitrage, and I'll give you an example or an illustration with a story so that you understand how that works. So arbitrage really is taking advantage of price differentials. And so when we do what's called the income snowball, that's my patented system and calculator showing you how to achieve financial freedom in an average of typically 5 to 10 years. I think our average clients do it in. And so when you're able to basically create enough passive income to cover all of your living expenses, you don't have to work anymore. And we use all 3 of these concepts that I'm going to share with you, all 3 of these secret pillars of wealth to make that work, right? And there's some other nuances to it as well. So if you wanted to learn more, be sure to watch my income snowball video. You can find it on our YouTube channel, or at least the initial link, and then you can watch the entire video. But arbitrage is really taking advantage of the price differential. With the income snowball, we're doing a cash flow arbitrage. I'm going to give you an example of that you would see in real life. So let's suppose you own a convenience store and you go to Costco and with $10, and you know that you can buy a box of Snickers for $10. You can go back to your convenience store and sell it for $20, right? You can buy it for $10 with your $10 bill, and you can sell it for $20. Now, is that a good investment? Well, it sounds like it's a pretty good investment, right? You will have doubled your money. You will have gotten your principal investment of $10 back, and you would have made an extra $10. So doubled your money. It's a 200% return on investment. Really good. You got your money back. It wasn't like you lost your $10. You got it all back plus more. So really good in all those respects, right? You've got control over that investment. We talk about that because, you've decided how much you want to charge for the Snicker, sparse, and so on and so forth. So that's arbitrage. Arbitrage is, you can buy, widgets in New Jersey for $5, and you can go and sell them in New York for $10. You just made money with arbitrage. And people do this by, in options and all kinds of different things in the stock market. That's a little bit more complicated, but there's simple ways of just taking advantage of simple arbitrage. Now that's an arbitrage example with the convenience store, right? And we've seen people do that, carting along through Costco with like big carts full of, Snickers or other types of candy. You think, what are they doing with all that? Well, they're going to go sell it in their store for more than what they bought it for. That's what they're doing. Now, let's take that last concept, which is leverage. That's concept number 3. That is the 3rd secret pillar of wealth he talks about in his book. Again, I highly recommend you go buy it if you have an opportunity. So leverage is really important, but here's what's interesting. A lot of people are afraid of leverage. They think that leverage in investing is risky, and there is some risk involved in using leverage when investing. So you have to be educated. And my recommendation is you always have a wealth coach when you invest, so you don't make silly mistakes like we did in the beginning when we didn't have a coach. But leverage can be risky, but I'm going to tell you what's even more risky. And this is the reason why people get into debt. They have no idea that when they buy a car or when they buy a home, they are using leverage the wrong way. They're actually borrowing to buy liabilities. And when they borrow to buy liabilities, those liabilities, they don't cost them money one time like buying the Snickers bars did. Those liabilities cost them money every single month for 5 years or 30 years or 15 years, depending on how long your mortgage or your car loan is. So that is actually taking money out of your bank account every single month for 60 months or many, many years. And people have no problem with that, and they don't think there's any risk involved in that. What I'm talking about is leverage to buy an asset that pays you every month more than the leverage costs you. If you can do that, that's a form of arbitrage, right? That's another form of arbitrage as well. The original arbitrage is, you buy something for less, you sell it for more, right? We're not buying and selling though. In this case, what I'm talking about is leveraging to purchase an asset that's going to pay you more than the leverage costs you. Let me give you that same illustration again so you can see how leverage would work. So in that same example, instead of taking $10 cash and going to Costco and buying a box of Snickers, the reason why people leverage their homes and their cars is because they want more buying power, right? So why not get more buying power when you're buying an investment that's going to pay you more, right? That's why people don't just, if they have $50,000, they don't just go somewhere and buy a $50,000 house. They use that $50,000 as a 10% down payment to buy a $500,000 house, and they borrow the other $450,000. Increase your buying power. If you have $5,000, you don't buy a $5,000 car, you buy a $25,000 or a $30,000 car with your $5,000 down. That's what people do to increase the buying power. Now we're talking about leverage being used to increase the buying power of your investments. So you take, instead of taking that $10 and going down to the convenience store and buying a box of Snickers for $10, you're going to take your credit card, go down to Costco, buy $40 worth of Snickers bars, 4 boxes of Snickers for $10, because you know you're going to turn around and sell them for $80 in your convenience store. Now, it might take you 2 months to sell it instead of the 1 month or 1 week that it took you when you just bought 1 box because you bought more. It might take you a little bit longer. So maybe you have to pay $5 in interest on the credit card, but is it worth it? Does it make sense to do that? Right? Guess what? You get to keep your $10 and you made $80 from the sale of those Snickers bars, paid the bank the $40 at plus $5 interest. And so you ended up with $35 out of nothing. Okay, so that's what leverage is all about if you make smart investments. Obviously, leveraging to make dumb investments or leveraging to buy liabilities is not a smart decision, but that is how people get into debt. And so we need to change our mindset. We need to think differently about how to make our money work for us, right? We get caught in a trap. My husband and I, we were renting and we purchased buildings. We were able to have all of our assets cover our liabilities so that when we did eventually go out and purchase a home, our assets could pay the mortgage on that and actually pay it off. So that's the kind of way you want to think. And that's how millionaires and billionaires think. And when they were interviewed about how they built their wealth, they talked about those 3 pillars of wealth. So that's my tips for today. The 3 secret pillars of wealth: cash flow, arbitrage, and leverage. Learn how to use them, get educated, get a wealth coach. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Aloha.